Not your average tabletop. Woohoo!
Welcome to Not Your Average Tabletop. I'm Zach,
And I'm Pepper.
and today we're giving our first impressions of Unmatched Adventures Tales to Amaze, which is the first of the
I thought he was
Unmatched.
going to say the whatever number release in the Unmatched series of games. I'm like, oh my gosh, he knows what number?
I know it right off the top of my head. I don't have a clue. It's probably almost the 20th, but it's the first one to offer a cooperative gaming experience in the Unmatched uh, line of games. Even though, yeah, they've had a ton of them so far, this is the first one that can be played cooperatively, and it can also be played competitively, and can be some of the characters from here can be mixed up as fighters in other unmatchups against the all the previous played ones. But and then I think most of the previous played ones can also play in here in the
Yep.
cooperative version. There's some that I think
Maybe their abilities don't really mesh well with
right,
this play style, but
right.
you can try to force them in there.
That's true. You could probably do about anything, but yeah, some are gonna work better than others, I would say. But yeah, this one actually brings four new characters, so I think it's the first box that they've released in a little while that's gone back to four kind of main new
Yep.
unmatched characters you can play. I think the last one, I don't remember the order, it was either Loveland Frog or the Legends
Volume 2.
2.
I think it was probably Cobble and Fog. I
So
think.
it's been a little bit since they've had one that's had four characters, and I only had ever heard of one of these characters prior to, and that was Nikola Tesla. But then they've also got the Golden Bat and Annie Christmas and Dr. Jill Trent.
Yes.
So I don't have much knowledge on any of those,
Yeah.
but I will say Golden Bat was probably for some reason the one that I was most excited about out of
Yeah.
those.
Yeah. He looked pretty cool with his miniature, and he's kind of sweeping with his cape, flying through the air with a sword, and a skull, like a golden skull
Right.
mask, or just his head. I don't know the character, but it
But
looked cool. It
it
looked
it
cool.
it did.
And Tesla as well was probably the second most interested in, just because, as with you, that was the only one that I knew anything about
Right.
going into it. But
Yeah.
excited to see what each one um, brought to the table.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, I was pretty excited when I heard it was going to be cooperative because, yeah, I would have probably said it's probably been a while now, but 3 years ago or so, a cooperative version of it probably would not have interested me that much, just because at the time I wasn't as into cooperative games. But as time has gone, I've gotten more interested in the cooperative versions of things, and I thought, this is probably going to be similar to a lot of those, where you're kind of all facing off against a bad, and it's likely probably getting more and more difficult, or there's some sort of
Yeah.
time you're fighting against, or something. The time in the game is usually limited in these types of games.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and yeah, this one is no different. I would say you are. So this one kind of brings two big bad characters that you can fight against. You cannot fight as these ones, unfortunately, so you cannot play as these two characters. But we've got kind of the alien invaders, Martian invaders, whatever you want to call it, and then we've got the Mothman. And then there's also some minions that'll come along with them. You can unfortunately not play as any of them, neither those big bads or the minions of, what is it, the Blob, the Jersey Devil, the Tarantula,
Skunk Ape.
Skunk Ape,
Some Queen, Ant Queen.
Ant Queen, um,
I think there's one more.
the Frog, Loveland
Frog.
Frog,
Loveland
I think.
Frog.
So, yeah, a lot of interesting characters, and they each have their own deck. So, yeah, in the game, you're playing unmatched like you typically would, and the four main characters have decks kind of built just like all other
Yep.
characters if you've ever played it before. But the two big bads kind of have a little, I would say, I think they have more cards. I'm not 100% sure now. Maybe they have the same amount of cards as the other ones. But I think the other smaller minion characters kind of have like 10 cards or
Yeah.
something.
Yep.
But yeah, so they each have their own individual deck, and they all kind of do slightly different things,
Yep.
which is really cool.
Yeah.
and then kind of the big bad. There's a tracker on each side. So we played this game twice, once against each big bad. We did not play all the characters though. We played it
we did
two-player,
something weird.
and we played it 2-player with 4 players, and yet we still did not use even. We only used half of the characters here. That was Golden Bat and Trent.
Yes, yeah, we went Golden Bat and what looked like his twin brother, Ghost Rider.
Yes.
So we went with them against the Mothman in the first scenario, and then the second scenario we had Dr. Jill Trent, Dr. Strange, Dr. Ellie Sattler, and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
And we played that two-handed,
Two-handed,
or we
yeah.
each had 2 of the characters, kind of
Yep.
controlled 2 of the characters.
But we did get to touch all the bad guys and all those minions that way
Yes.
as well, because you add, which I think is a really cool way to scale it, is you add a minion for each character playing the game. So you can play up to 4 sidekicks for the baddie, for the big bad.
Right.
You can, I think that was one, even though it may have been a little crazy to do that, I feel like that was cool to get to see just how different each of those minions play. And even if we eliminate a couple of them really early, like
Right.
even the frog, we ended up getting rid of them decently early, but you could see they have low attacks, but they can go possibly multiple times in a round and just keep hitting you. Not for a lot of damage, but could possibly drain your cards.
Right.
And just the Tarantula is setting out these webs and getting more powerful effects if they're on those webs. And I felt they did a really good job of just bringing character to these AI. All of these, there's like 8 different AI characters. And
Right. Essentially.
very simple system. They just move and try to attack you, but they all feel unique.
Yeah, I would 100% agree that they somehow made them feel unique. They all seem to have some different forms of board presence. It seemed like, and then if you tried to avoid them, that would hurt you as well. So there's a negative to trying to be like, well, if we just all run away, we can leave a minion by himself or something.
Yeah,
and unfortunately, you cannot do that.
Yeah, if they can't do anything, then they pretty much advance the end game. Of you losing. So
Right.
you kind of want to be attacked, to be able to be attacked, but you also don't.
Right.
So, yeah.
But yeah, I really, out of these 2 plays, I really enjoyed them. I would say, it's a little hard to tell because we were both doing 2 characters, which is something we've never really done. So not even as like a,
I've done it once. I think you and Michaela teamed up and took on, I think I was 2 characters.
Yeah.
That's the only other time that we've had experience.
I was going to say, I was trying to remember if we'd ever done teams, but yeah, outside of that, we'd never really done that before. So it might have just been that, but I would say that one definitely felt a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And then, just some of the turns were taking a little bit longer, and the way this game works, and it's like normal Unmatched would work if you were playing with teams or more. There could be player elimination potentially. So that could be an unfortunate thing, especially in a 4-player game, because it did go pretty long. So if you really got unlucky or something, got a few things attacking you, and you just didn't have the right cards, it could be a very long time of waiting in in a 4-player game.
I do like that. Unlike a regular Unmatched, you aren't eliminated if just if your hero is eliminated. If you do have sidekicks still around, you do get to continue playing. It's not just over for you. So I enjoy that part of it. That's just a little detail that didn't really come in. It did come into play a little bit with Jill Trent, which I think she was the first eliminated in that match. The one new character of those 4. And she was the first eliminated, although it took a while to take her out, and then her sidekick did live on, but eventually was taken out as well. But yeah, it could be a little long. It's probably not the recommended way to play, but I still had a good time with it, and it was kind of it was an exploration game, and just trying to feel out the system, and it didn't break for playing it that weird way. It still was very enjoyable throughout, even if it was a bit long.
Yes, and the AI is very, very easy to control.
Yeah, very easy, and I love the initiative system. It just removes, like when you get into a new round, like I'm just so kind of trained to be like, okay, now what's what's this new round? How do we do it? What's the order? It's just like, no, just flip the card, and that tells you who's going at this moment. You don't flip them all out and see the whole order before it happens. Flip them one at a time, execute that. If it's a baddie, they move and try to attack the nearest person.
Mm-hmm.
If it's you, you just take your normal turn. It's just so simple how that works, and it's so exciting as well, as you're like, okay, here's kind of what we want to do this round, and we want to be first, because you kind of learn what people are doing on their turn, what these villains are going to do, and you see maybe a really bad situation. If maybe the Tarantula goes first, this is going to be really bad. We need to get one of the first actions with, sometimes maybe we're like, we need Doctor Strange to go first before this person, or before Jekyll and Hyde, or so you're thinking these things, and when it works out, it's like, yes, yes. And if it doesn't work out,
you just have to figure
it out.
Figure something out. Yeah, I really love that, and I think this one, I think it would even play good. It says 1 to 4. I'm interested in. I don't know if you read specifically the solo rules.
No, I did not.
But I feel like if it doesn't suggest it already, I think you could play 2-handed solo, and it would be a pretty easy thing to handle.
Yeah, I think so.
And just treat it like a 2-player game if you wanted to. And I think that would work pretty well, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise too, I would say, just with each of them feeling unique, and I really like the kind of the way that their decks never run out is they've got like this reshuffle card, which is whatever the creature is a hoax, and it's got 0 attack, 0 defense. It's kind of just a bluff card for them, and then they reshuffle. And I really like how that works. And sometimes, depending on which characters you're playing, you can take a look at, like in normal Unmatched, you can look at your opponent's deck and stuff. So sometimes you might know that's coming up, and you have to be like, do we want to try to attack? Because some of those cards will have really major effects, the baddie cards, and obviously you could try to attack with a good card, and they might cancel your effects, cancel the whole card completely, do that kind of stuff. But yeah, when you can know, we can hit him here because he's got nothing, he's not going to defend, or we know we're safe because he's going to attack, but he's going to be 0. Yeah. So we don't have to waste a card. So knowing that is really cool, and then just having that chance, even if you don't know, just being like, I'm probably not going to survive here unless it's the hoax, and then it ends up being the hoax, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I feel like there were a couple, the Tarantula, especially in that second game, it felt like it kept becoming a hoax. It kept being that card again and again. It's like, wow, got pretty lucky. I love that. Just any kind of, not shoot the moon, but just shot in the dark, possibly.
And then your odds are getting better, too.
Yes. So as it's going, unless you forget to shuffle it back in, which we did one time. We were a couple cards late. But unless that, then you know that, okay, one of these last 3 cards is just a free hit on them, pretty much, if you want it to be. Or free, you might not have to defend yourself if you want to save your cards. But then also you can look kind of at the makeup of their deck from their discard file and see the other cards that are left, and it's like, that was a really nasty card. And there's one more of those left in there, too. Right. So it's a lot to think about. I really like that part of it. And that's kind of similar to Unmatched as well, just kind of knowing what could be, getting to know a deck and knowing what your opponent might have. So it brings a little bit of that. But I will say that it does lose a little bit of kind of that classic Unmatched dueling, kind of trying to think, what are they going to play here, and just reading the situation, since it's an AI and they're always going to try to attack the closest person, and they're going to flip a random card. It does lose a little bit of that, of trying to outthink your opponent and understand, like, some of the best moments in Unmatched are when maybe they get 2 attacks in a row, and maybe you have a feint or maybe a high defense, and it's like, okay, which of these attacks are they going to prioritize over the other? Are they going to try to throw a big thing first, or maybe just a really good effect, or are they going to save something for last? What are they going to think I'm going to do? Like, I feel like those are just some of the juiciest moments, and it does lose a little bit of that.
I would agree.
But I mean, that was to be expected. I think a little bit, being a cooperative game and playing against cardboard and cards here, but I think it does do a really good job apart from that. I think it perfectly meshes the system with pretty much a pandemic, control the board, the danger around the board. I think it meshes those perfectly. I don't know if it does anything just like mind-blowing. I'd say this
Yeah,
feels
maybe not.
like they took pandemic and threw an unmatched system for your characters. It's like you took
Yeah.
your unmatched characters, like, I wish I could play these in Cthulhu Death May Die, and then you made a game out of that. It
All
was
right.
like, use this system, go take on some baddies together. That's what it feels like, and it works perfectly.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Yeah, I think it does lose some of that if you just like pure unmatched play, kind of head to head, knowing your opponent and what they'll do and stuff. If you like that part of unmatched, then yeah, that's not going to be in here. Um, and yeah, I for some reason I do when I was playing this was thinking pandemic, and I don't know what it is about it because it is sort of like it and it's sort of not.
Especially the Martian side of the board, because you're putting the
That's
aliens out
true.
on those
Maybe
spots,
that's
and
what it
they
was.
put the mobs out as well. Just the
So you're
danger
trying to go
tokens.
in those areas and clear stuff. So
Yeah,
that's maybe where that comes from a
it
little
is
bit.
pretty close.
So, but yeah, I would say after the two plays of it, I'd probably have to put this at a 9.5 out of
A
10.
9.5,
Um,
9.5.
I don't think it can be a 10
Wow.
yet because I haven't played all the characters,
Sure.
and I I don't know. I'm trying to remember. I think I liked the Golden Bat quite a bit when
Yeah.
you played him, and Jill Trent was interesting, but I would like to see how some of the characters play too. Like those two play in an
Just
actual
competitively.
match, in a
Yep.
competitive match, and then obviously um, I know some people probably think it's crazy, but I usually just the first time through playing a character, I
It's the
just want to
first
be
time you're
surprised.
first time you're seeing those
I don't
cards.
look at the cards beforehand. I'm sure people are like, "Well, how can you even be successful?" Well, I don't need to be successful, but yeah. So I still got to learn or see what the other characters feel like. So I can't quite give it a perfect score because I don't have all the information yet. But this one could rise.
Yeah. I'm coming in way lower at a 9 here.
Oh wow.
It's just what a letdown this is. Oh my god, I was expecting 12, 13. But it is, the unmatched system is a great system. Like I said, it just marries those two perfectly. It's so smooth, it's so easy to play, and I feel like if you love that system and someone in your group doesn't like head-to-head
Yeah, that's true.
combat games, and I think this would be a great way to introduce them to that. And like you said, the characters are great. So if you just want 4 new characters, which if this was just 4 new characters, it would still be in our collection just
Hmm.
because we love Unmatched that much.
Yeah.
Just for that, if the cooperative version was terrible, it would still be worth it to me.
Yeah.
Because they have seemed pretty cool from what I've seen of just those two, and I'm really excited for the other two as well. I really do hope we get to play Mothman, the UFO, the Martians as playable characters someday, and all those minions. We gotta get those. We gotta. I might drop this down to an 8.99. How did they not make those playable characters?
You really think they would
I
have?
mean, at
But
this point, I can't
yeah,
imagine that was. I mean, that's a lot of extra characters. So that's 8 more characters, but
that's true.
still, it'll happen someday. But
I would. They might at least go for the Mothman and
Mothman and
aliens.
yeah,
At least do those two probably,
yeah,
but we'll see. Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I would guess. I guess I don't know what this one's going to be priced at, but I think this would be a pretty good value one comparatively if it's in the kind of the same realm and range as the kind of
yeah.
Marvel characters have been, or possibly cheaper than those. Um, so yeah, in the probably the 45 to 55 range, I think that would be a pretty solid price for
Yeah.
this. Especially if you have a lot of unmatched content and you
Yeah.
do have people that would prefer to play it cooperatively. This
Yeah.
is going to be a great system
Yeah.
that I think you need to definitely add to your collection of
Yeah.
unmatched.
But I will say, if you are entering in for the first time, if you're hearing a lot of great things about this and think to have that cooperative option to get this, I don't know if you also want the competitive version, if this would be the best core box, just because of the map being as large as it is, I don't
Unless
think
you're always going to play it like 4 players.
Yeah, if you're always going to play
or
it
teams.
higher player counts or that cooperative version, then the map would work. But if you do also want that 2-player dueling experience, then I think you would probably also want to get another set for one of the smaller maps that are built for that game mode.
Yeah, we haven't tried it on
Yeah,
here, but
yeah.
this map just looks pretty large, so yeah, I think it would feel different
Yeah.
than other ones.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but otherwise, that's our thoughts on Unmatched Adventures, Tales to Amaze.
We are amazed.
We can't wait till the next cooperative Unmatched adventure comes out.
Yes, Volume 2.
Hopefully sooner than later.
Yes, in the next few months, hopefully.
We can only hope. But otherwise, you can check out our unboxing video on this one if you want to see kind of a close-up of all the components. But otherwise, we hope to see you on the video. And as always, don't forget to
Keep on nibbling.
on our content.